here's why getting any kind of engagement is good on your posts. In traditional advertising, there is a stat, it's like a generic stat fact that in order for our brain to register a specific ad, and I'm talking about like traditional advertising, for example, things that they put on the side of the bus or on the bus stop, or another kind of medium where you're just passing by. In some countries, we have much more aggressive advertisement. For example, if you're in the States, you will have a real in-your-face advertisement, and the brain can only take, so much, right? So when the brain is very distracted, it stops registering every single detail. And it's a really important concept to always keep in mind when you're creating your content, because you cannot put all your expectations on a particular post. Right now, I am writing a really awesome post, and I'm going to write it as an article, and what started as a small little thing about human design just like turned into this big writing on engagement and generally how to approach this, because we tend to do that. So there's me writing this amazing post, and I could also have these expectations that when I post it, that people will come and, enroll into my programs or something like that. But you can't do that. You cannot do that with content, because that's a very debilitating way of approaching your marketing. With marketing, you need to focus on self-recognition. No matter what your human design type is, you need to do things that light you up. You need to follow your strategy and authority in terms of what to create. So you don't create what you think people need for whatever type you are. This is always a wrong approach, right? This is a traditional approach, and that's why there's so many people struggle with it, because sometimes we sit down and we're like, okay, I need to, I think that they need to, they want to hear about this and this and this. I personally is extremely bored writing about this, but they want it, so I'm going to write it. And the thing is that you're creating content that is average. What happens, or mediocre? So what happens when the content is mediocre? The mediocre content is content that is not energetically backed up. And I truly believe that we connect to each other through the energy of our voices, writing or speaking, right? Whether you have an open throat in your chart in human design, whether you have a defined throat, always remember, if you have an open throat, always remember the best, most impactful voice or one-off out there, right? Who, in my opinion, Matthew McConaughey. When that man speaks, right, he only had to say, all right, in a role that he accidentally got in a movie, right, when he didn't want to be an actor at all. Here's surprise, surprise, right? Look at him now. And that, just speaking it, just the power of expression created a completely new direction in his life. So if you don't have if you don't have a defined throat in your chart, it doesn't mean that you can't define, that you can't express yourself. But when you are creating content, when you're not expressing yourself, your essence, if you, so talking about strategy. So for example, I'm a projector, right? I need to be in the zone. I need to feel that I want to give this advice right now. Right now, this advice makes my energy, my projector energy, like, and this is the problem with projectors when we offer this without invitation. Say, for example, one-on-one, right? So if you didn't ask me and I started like loading this all on you, this is heavy. This is, then we get this resistance. And then we feel like we're not recognized, and we're bitter. And, they don't recognize us. I know all about it, right? If you're a generator, manifesting generator, if you're thinking that this is what you should be writing, and you're creating these posts, but you actually don't feel that fire inside, that bubble, the bubbles, the butterflies, your body doesn't want to do it. You didn't listen to if your body wants to do it. You didn't see something first that you could respond to, or read something. You're like, oh, and it's not the only way to react when you have the sacral authority, or if you're emotional authority, don't worry about it with the content, right? If you're an emotional authority and you feel the sacral response to something, you can create content about it. It's only like if you're buying a house or, the kind of bigger decisions or interacting with other people, then maybe you need a little bit of clarity. But sometimes, if you feel this, I do believe that we need to write content when we feel it. That doesn't have anything to do with kind of like waiting for the right timing to express it. This is much more when the other person is involved. Now you might ask me, well, what about content creation? And, what about this whole strategy, like wait for invitation? Shouldn't you be invited to write content? And this is the key. No, it's only in one-on-one interaction. It's not about you offering your expression, your content, your ideas, your insights, what is inside there. You're channeling it and you're putting it out there. That is visibility. And visibility is one to many, and it's no one in particular, right? In a way. So they will self-identify by reading your content if this is speaking to their heart or not. It's not you coming into their space, their aura, energetically invading it and then pushing it on them. Right? So this is what I love about content. And this is why no matter what your human design type is, right, you can still express yourself through content. The key here is to understand that the audience needs more than once. And this is why I started talking about this statistics. Our brains need more than once to register even that you exist even. Let's just start from the beginning, right? They need to register it because when the brain is so distracted, and even in traditional media, as I mentioned, if you're in the States, you get in a taxi and there's this like the telly, your brain is so bombarded all the time. Why do you think there's in these kind of countries where you have so much advertisement, like Asia as well? There's a lot of people who are like living in cocoons because your brain has to shut down from all that stimuli from the outside, right? You have to choose. It has to choose because what is the primary function of your brain? To preserve calories. And yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't work for weight loss, right? But it wants to preserve calories because, right, we're still creatures that with primary instincts, and the brain didn't get the memo that we live in a civilized world. It still expects us that we have to maybe survive starvation or saber-toothed tigers will jump out, so we need to preserve calories. So when we need those calories, we will have them. And this is the reason why our attention is being, we don't get access to the full potential of our brain because the brain is conserving these energies, right? Conserving these calories. It doesn't want you to constantly, when we think we burn calories, it doesn't want you to constantly focus on every little thing. It needs to prioritize. It's constantly prioritizing with survival in mind. And so when you are scrolling by, next time, when you have a habit, like I am addicted, right? And I'm not the worst person, but I know, and I admit to myself that there is this addiction of like reaching for the phone. And then first thing you go on Facebook, and it's boring and it's horrible and soul destroying. And you go on Facebook, not because you really wanted, but because your body habitually did this, right? So you go on Facebook and you start the scroll, the worst, you can get into reels and stuff like that. So you start the scroll and you're like scrolling, see what's happening there when I'm scrolling. My brain didn't even register that there was a hand raiser squad, that today is a hand raiser squad day, Visibility That Sells Accelerator, hand raiser squad, we have to do something about it. This is what we're doing inside, right? Taking action. And it didn't even register it, right? And you're scrolling and scrolling. And when you're scrolling, it also scrolls past some posts. It's not actually stopping like every time there's a new post and you're like, okay, if it did that, it would be so much better. Because, if we had to, even on stories or reels, for example, if we watched one reel, no, they don't do it. They actually just start playing the other one. If we had a chance to assess each post individually before we move on, the brain would have actually paid much more attention to each. But because there is this happening, where straight away we're seeing, so for example, there was this kind of some sort of ad. I'm like, oh, I want a new dress. Like this is like all these things happening, right? Then there's Susan's post. They're so bright. My brain's like, oh, visuals. I want that. Ooh, there's somebody put an animated GIF in. There's another thing my brain is. And maybe the next post here that would have been something that you've written, you poured your heart in, you created this real good piece of content. The hook was great. Everything was perfect. And I am a correct person for you. But because of all that stimuli that my brain just received, this hasn't even registered. So why engagement is so important? Let's go back to the topic of this video. Because it takes 3 times for my brain to scan through something in order to one of those times somehow kind of register that there was this piece of content. And then it takes more and more of registration, so every 3 times, only once, for me to register that there is something valuable for me going on. So it could be your next post, because one thing will be the same thing as your name, the same thing as your profile picture. Although Facebook is changing now, I think Facebook is turning into Instagram as I'm recording this, but I'm just saying this. So this is something that is happening. And so with the engagement, it's so important that you get engagement on your content, not to stroke your ego that your post is so good, right? And not to validate your efforts, not to see if it's good or not in terms of do people react to it or not. We can't afford having those expectations from our posts, even when they're brilliant. We just can't do that, because sometimes what I've just demonstrated means that it doesn't matter how brilliant your post is. You're here dealing with how the brain works in the era of social media development and overload, right? And don't blame it, because it's not about blaming it or feeling bad about it. It's about finding the solution, right? And the solution is to not attach expectations to your content, but fall in love with creating content, with tapping into the place when you're energetically feeling power that you want to express something, and tap into what you need to, how can you create this space for you? There's an article that I wrote on my blog, on my website, and in that article, there is a, it all comes from our sacral, right? How to tap into that energy to get the energy to get things done, right? Not to accomplish them necessarily, that's more kind of rude, but to create, because that's what sacral is about, creation and sexuality. And, it's all about creation of new life, right? It's a life force. And so depending on, even if you don't have it defined, I don't have it defined, but depending on what centers you have, or what gates you have active on your sacral, you can actually find those little angles to access the space where you can be creative on any day. It's so interesting. Yeah, of course, some days will be more creative than others. There's other factors as well, but it's really, really good. So I'm going to link that article, and please do read it. But coming back to why engagement is important, right, is because, so I was just scrolling. If your post didn't get any engagement at all, then chances Facebook algorithm will not prioritize it in the newsfeed. What I mean by that is that I am unlikely to see it again. But if you are getting comments, especially comments, like reactions these days are not that important, although it's nice to get them, but they're not as important. But if you're getting, if you are seeing actually, you know what, they're not important. However, people who are close to you, people who are watching you closely enough, they will still see your post. That's why you want engagement, so more people can see it. And then even if when you don't get engagement a lot, then people who are closely watching you, they're still going to see. My husband just saw a post that I didn't get much engagement on. It was me and my daughter, and we were playing with filters, and but it came up in his newsfeed. I just thought of that. So what happens when you're getting engagement? It doesn't matter what. It's just like when you get comments and reactions, the algorithm will boost your post. So when I'm habitually picking up my phone, opening the app, and I'm doing that several times a day, and you could be as well, or on the computer, because we do it as a habit. We don't even think. We don't go to Facebook to learn or even to do anything. It's just a habit. And so often we say to ourselves, it's a horrible habit we have. And yet that's, it's a habit. So I'm picking up the phone again after a couple of hours, and I'm again going. All of a sudden I'm on a newsfeed again. And what do I do then, right? When I'm on the newsfeed, I start scrolling. And all of a sudden, this post is there again, right? And that's the second time it's showing to me. So maybe this time my brain, maybe there was no visual post before or after. My brain maybe at that moment picked you up, right? And started reading. And then, whoa, this is speaking to me. I'm going to read this. And no matter how long your posts are, trust me, if your hook, if your opening line got people in, yeah, then the right ones where the rest of the poster aligns with them, they will read till the very end. I have experimented with writing super long posts, and then at the very end, I would say something. Give me an excited gif if if you agree with this. And I saw people, complete strangers, adding these gifs in the comments. So they read the whole thing. The whole thing. I even struggle reading these long posts sometimes. However, when I follow others, and some of them write long posts, I read every word. I read every word. Don't underestimate how we stalk people that we follow, right? So you want to become that person they stalk. Secretly, they don't need to comment, and so remove expectations from your posts, right? Focus on visibility, consistency, focus on getting engagement. That is why we have the hand raiser squad feature in the Visibility That Sells Accelerator, because we go and give engagement to each other's posts. And yes, we probably will see each other more often, but other people will see your post more often because there is more comments on it. And the comments can, not deep. They don't need to be deep, because it's not the point. Do you understand what is this engagement game is about? Give me a GIF in the comment, and definitely, please, don't go away if you're confused. Put it in the comments and let me know what is confusing, where you still have a gap, so I can fill that gap, so I can help explain it, so I can help find another analogy, so you understand how important it is to not get attached to every single post, right? That's one takeaway to take from this that I suggest. And the second one is really also understand that there's so much going on that one post will never be enough. So really, you want to be consistently visible. Yes, one post might be seen several times, but you would need to create more and more and more and more to be visible. So while the brain is registering one of those posts, if the person is correct, if the person is for you, right? If your hooks are clear, one of these posts will drag them in and hopefully further into your funnels. And as it sounds like a lot of work, but actually it is a creative process, and you can take your long posts and repurpose them into your blog articles, and you can do so much with that. I was just writing and now I'm doing a video. That's clearly, while I was in this energetic form and I was thinking about this and I was writing this down, I said, I'm also going to do a video, because this is important, because I'm in that energetic light right now, and I can, tell you all these things with this energetic backing that I have. And that's the key. And it's a good feeling. So it's not hard work. It's expressing yourself. Expressing yourself is awesome. It makes you feel so good about yourself. And that adds to feeling good about yourself, recognizing that you're awesome, adds to the conviction in your voice, adds to your natural magnetism activated. How awesome is that?